Hello, everybody. Welcome to Tackle Talk Live. I'm Ranger Daiwa Pro Staffer Steve Graff. And by the way, you're watching us right now live on Facebook, our Tackle Talk Live Facebook page. But starting next week, the Tackle Talk Live show will actually be live on YouTube as well as Facebook at the same time. But today, when the show's over, it will automatically be downloaded to our Tackle Talk Live
a YouTube page.
YouTube page. Yeah, thank you. I'm getting them all mixed up. Too much social media going on.
There's a lot of social media.
But anyway, I'm Steve Graff, Ranger Daiwa Pro Staffer, along with Kevin Jean, V&M General Manager for V&M Baits. And Kevin, we got a lot to talk about today. And so we're going to enlighten you today as to what's coming up. We got a lot of pro circuits fixing to take place, especially in this region of Toledo Bend, Sam Rayburn. And we've had a lot already going on, Kevin.
We have. There's been a lot of tournaments to kick the year off. A lot of the pro circuits are fixing to start their tournament trails. The FLW tour will begin this week over at Sam Rayburn.
Right.
The Bass goes first week of February. Bass and MLF Bass Pro Tour both released the first week of February. But there's a lot of stuff going on. Everybody's excited to start fishing finally.
Yep, it is. It is. Matter of fact, it's here earlier. I know, Kevin, me and you, I've never started in the first week in January, except when I fished FLW Tour as a co-angler in 03, 04. The first tournament was always at Okeechobee. But in this region, we normally don't start until February, maybe the last week in January, but this year we cranked it up basically the week after Christmas.
Well, I mean, we did. The first BFL on Sam Rayburn this year in the Cowboy Division was January 3rd, 4th? 4th.
Yeah.
January 4th. So we started before Florida started. So we definitely got to start early, but you know they've already had a Bass Champs over there. They've already had an ABA.
Right.
It's wide open.
February 15th, we'll have 2 BFLs already in the books for this region.
February 29th, we'll have 3.
Yeah, by March 1st, we have 3 in the books.
We'll have 3 in the books already.
And but anyway, we got a lot to talk about today. We're going to get right into it. This week, FLW Tour is headed for Sam Rayburn. And Kevin, me and you just talked about it. A lot of pressure has been on this lake for the last 2.5 weeks.
It is, Stephen. You know, the weather has really thrown these guys a curveball. I know a lot of the ones the local guys that fish FLW and the ones that, don't have to drive very far to get to Sam Rayburn.
Right.
They came up before the off limits. The off limits was actually the weekend of our BFL. January 5th or 6th, I believe, was their off limits. A lot of them came over. Steve, that first weekend, January 4th, it was 70 degrees. Water temperature's 59, 60 degrees.
Exactly. Almost spawning weather.
And it's been that way ever since then. Until the week of their tournament.
Of course.
You
get a curveball this week.
The high this week is going to be in the 50s all week long. We're going to get some rain showers. The wind's going to be blowing. So them fish have made a hard push to the bank.
Right.
And
then pulling right back
this cold weather is going to hit them in the head. And, I think some of the deep fish is going to play. 2 weeks ago, I would have told you it wouldn't happen. It would be one shallow. But now I think some of the deep fish will play, and it's going to be interesting. It really is.
And this time last year, Rayburn was over 10 feet high.
Yes.
And it kind of neutralized the field as far as guys like favorites like we're going to talk about right now. Nick LeBrun. Nick had a very good tournament here last year.
Yes.
But Nick had significant knowledge of this body of water. He has cut his teeth over here at Rayburn and done very well in the past.
Yeah, he did.
Will it help him with it being back to normal here? It's only a foot and a half low right now.
I'll tell you who it's going to hurt. It's going to hurt them guys from way off.
Yeah.
The only time they ever seen Rayburn was last year when it was 10 foot high.
Yeah, that's true.
So they're coming back.
It's a new lake.
They're coming back, and it's nothing like they seen or fished.
No, it's a new lake to them.
So yes, it's always going to be a plus for the locals,
right?
Like Nick, Dickie Newberry, Daryl Gleason.
Right.
You can go down the list of locals. But for the guys that come here only for their first tournament here last year and seen this lake, they're going to have to completely start over.
The one thing I have noticed is the couple tournaments that I have fished, because one tournament I didn't open my mind up. You can't go into this event narrow-minded saying, well, I'm going to catch them this way, because in 2 or 3 days of this event, that whole thing could change, flip-flop from shallow to deep and back to shallow in 3 days.
It really can. With this weather pattern, with the 360 turn that this weather did in the last 2 or 3 days, like I said, every fish in the lake was running shallow to get ready to do their thing.
Right.
And all of a sudden, it's 30 degrees this morning, and it's going to be like that all week.
Yeah.
So you're going to have a couple to fish all 4 days and make it to the championship day. You're going to have a couple different patterns going, I believe.
Baits, what are you thinking? We both know it's kind of been hot over there. They just had a rattle trap tournament over there. Of course, the trap, it's that time of year. A lot of guys going to throw a trap to get a limit, especially.
Right.
But what baits do you think will play for somebody winning this event?
Again, last week I think I could have named you 2 or 3, but this week I think somebody can find a mega load in 15 to 20 foot on the right point,
right,
20 foot or so,
mid-depth fish,
and that can be a person if they find the right wad of pre-spawners that are moving into a creek or a pocket or
right,
a creek bend,
right,
with a Carolina rig or a crankbait, and they can win it off 2 schools if they have those schools to themselves,
right.
Last weekend was the Bass Champs over there.
Right.
A good friend of ours, Ryan Pinkston, won it.
Right.
And he won it in about 15 foot of water, Carolina rig, and a V&M baby swamp hog. And I think that technique will hold up the longest. Yeah. Now you're going to be able to catch them. There's going to be plenty of guys throwing a rattle trap. There's going to be plenty of guys throwing a vibrating jig.
Right.
A slow-moving plastic, like a Cinco style bait.
Right.
All that's going to work. With the amount of pressure that this lake has already got this year, I don't see that holding up for 4 days.
And another thing that'll come into play, I think, this week, because another guy that we both know, and he's done very well over there this year already, Derek Mundy, actually finished second in this ABA this last weekend. And had another good tournament in the BFL. I think he finished second in that. Mm-hmm. He's deep cranking. He has 3 different size crankbaits on his rods and is covering the drains at different depth ranges. And when you find out what depth they're at in those drains, but now the drain bite, and he'll tell you the week of Bass Champs, it disappeared for him.
But I think with this weather this week, Steve, that's going to be the factor.
Back to that.
Whoever can figure out those drain fish that are in wads, they can pull up and in 15, 20 casts have the limit and the size they want and can leave it alone.
Right.
That's going to be the one who wins it.
Yeah.
Now, another interesting thing, I talked to Nick LeBrun a couple days ago as he was driving over to here. Them guys are already practicing right now. They started practicing yesterday. I talked to Nick Saturday night, I believe it was, and he said, Kevin, one interesting thing, last year, their tournament was like the first weekend in January, I believe. It was it was the first tournament of the year at Sam Rayburn.
Right.
Those fish haven't been messed with.
Right.
This year, again, we had a BFL over there, a bass champ, a 250 bass champs.
Yep.
A high school tournament that had how many boats?
600 plus. 600
plus high school boats, an ABA, an outlaw outdoors tournament, a rattle trap tournament.
Media bass was last weekend.
So every weekend since the first of the year, we've had a big tournament on Saturday and on Sunday. And and Nick told me, he said, Kevin, last year those fish were fresh. They hadn't been messed with, and we was able to go out and really whack on them. And he said that's not going to be the case this year. Those fish have been highly pressured. So again, I think it's going to be the person who figures out the drain bite, who figures out that creek bend or something. I might be totally wrong, but that has something to themselves. That way, I think that's going to be somebody that holds up.
Well, and as many tournaments that's already taken place on Sam Rayburn, another thing, too, that could come into play is, let's be honest, release fish. A lot of those fish that have been released in those areas at those boat ramps, those fish don't wander off too far right off the bat. Some of the fish are going to hang around. So
absolutely,
there could be some of these guys do really well close to the boat, within sight of the boat ramp.
Absolutely.
So that'll be interesting to see. The next thing is BASS, February the 6th through the 9th. They're headed for the St. Johns River. That's an opening event for the elite guys. So looking forward to see, and what a great place. St. John's is just as good as it gets. It ranks up there, in my opinion, with Rayburn, even Toledo when it was really good at Toledo, Chickamauga. It's in that same category.
It is. It's a big fish factory, and they picked the right time of the year to be at St. Johns River, of course.
Yeah.
There's still going to be some spawning going on. There will be some pre-spawn. There will be some post-spawn.
Yeah.
Already going on down there in Florida. So that one, they're going to flat out whack them.
Right.
So that'll be a perfect weekend for there. But that same week, the MLF Bass Pro Tour starts their season off.
Right.
They're going to be that week at Lake Eufaula, Alabama, which I know you're very familiar with.
Yeah, fished there last spring, April, and absolutely a phenomenal body of water. I absolutely enjoyed my trip there. It was the ABA National Championship was there last year, and caught fish. I mean, it's a place you can go catch a lot of fish there. Now, whether it plays up the river this time of year or do they go south? I mean, that's the thing I learned about going to Eufaula. You have to commit. You either commit to going up the river or you commit to going south and pick your poison. And there's not much in between, but a lot of guys will do one or the other. And so it'd be interesting to see how again, you're talking maybe the best 80 anglers in the world fishing that particular circuit. So they're going to catch them. It's just how they're going to catch them. I look for some big bags to show up for that event.
So if you notice, all three circuits start their year off with a big fish factory tournament. Yeah. They want to start the year off with a bang. We talked about all the drama going on in the fishing world and the fishing industry, especially amongst all these tournaments.
Yeah.
You can tell each one of them is trying to make a hard push here, saying, we're going to have the best year. We're going to the best lakes, so on and so forth. So real excited about, the first event for all three of these tours. I think everywhere they go, these guys are going to catch them on these bodies of water.
No doubt. And it's just that time of year, like I said, as long as the weather's cooperating, you don't have any major fronts come through, these guys are going to figure them out. And it don't matter, and you and I both know this, it doesn't matter how many are in the event. You can have 10 guys in an event or 110. Somebody's going to figure them out, and they're going to catch them.
Absolutely, all three of these lakes. But you want to keep track of that FOW event, the FOW Tour event this week over at Sam Raven. That's going to be interesting. Guys can catch them any type of way they want to fish. Basically, right now, a lot of stuff from deep to shallow, a lot of stuff going on. They'll have the live coverage going on. You need to check that out, especially if you're not familiar with Favor. If you want to watch some guys really cover a lot of water, catch a lot of fish, you need to make sure and tune into that.
Yeah, and let's real quick. We'll pick some favorites. We both
Don't do that to me.
We both like Nick LeBrun. We know Nick's going to be a player over there. He should do really well in this event. A guy that probably struggled a bit on the tour last year, that's got a year under his belt now, but is on a body of water that he's very familiar with. Randy Despino, local angler that we know. Randy's a good angler.
And the water's at the right level for what Randy does.
Right.
But you can't even start talking about Rayburn and this without calling out the names of Dickie Newberry.
Yeah.
Lindell Martin Jr.
Yeah.
So
legends on that body of water.
Those guys, you throw Daryl Gleason in, who is his first year on tour, but Daryl's been fishing Rayburn for no telling how long now.
Been guiding there.
And been guiding there. So you throw Daryl in the mix. Clark Ream.
Yep.
Clark's
has some history there.
I really think this is going to be a local deal. The locals know how to figure out the drain deal. It's different.
Yeah.
Rayburn is different than any other body of water in the nation as far as drains and creek bends and creek channels that really funnel the fish into those pockets.
Right.
And if you've never done that before, it can be a little overwhelming. It really can.
And grass will play a factor in this particular event, because Rayburn, south of 147 Bridge all the way down to Mill Creek, is absolutely got grass in every pocket over there. Now north, it's sporadic. I actually fished north all day in this last ABA, and I found some grass, but it's like the size of your pickup truck. And it's thick there.
But the further you come south, Steve, the better it gets.
Oh, and no doubt. You get south of 147 Bridge, and normally this time of year, Kevin, it still may play. North of 147 is where this tournament, I thought would originally be won, but with the grass like it is, these guys are going to get in that grass, and they're going to figure them out.
But once you get above 147 is when those ditches and creek bends really start to come into play.
Yeah, no doubt.
That's places up there that don't get as much pressure.
Yeah, and you got a lot of lily pad stems up there, lily pad patches, especially around Deer Stand and some other places up there.
Make sure to tune in this week. I really think. Give me one name. One name. And we'll go over this next week. But give me one name. You get one pick.
My gut's telling me Dickie Newberry.
Now, see, that's cheating, because that's what I was going to say.
Well, you can pick Nick.
Yeah, I mean,
I was torn between Nick and Dickie. I'm gonna go with Dickie. I just feel like the experience he has there is off the chart.
And he is a rattle trap guy.
Oh yeah,
he is.
No doubt.
He is a rattle trap guy.
So Dickie's versatile. He can catch one. He'll throw a rig. He'll throw a Carolina rig a lot.
Somebody that we didn't name that had a really good tournament there last year was Jim Tutt.
Yeah, that's true.
Tutt had a really good tournament there last year.
And Lindell Martin Jr. has a tremendous history.
I'm going to say this name, and everybody's going to say I'm doing it because he was before he went pro, he was my tournament partner, my team partner.
Yeah.
but I know what kind of pre-practice he had over there, and he's doing the offshore deal.
Right.
And I'm going to go ahead and say Daryl Gleason.
Oh, good. I hope Daryl does pull it out.
Just because I know what he's doing, and I think what he's doing is how it will be won.
Right. All right. So. Well, let's move on here. Let's talk about exactly what has taken place in the last week. The big stringers it's taken to win some of these events. The smallest stringer, believe it or not, was the BFL. Only took 20 pounds, which was Kevin Lazione, had 20-pound stringer. And I think conditions really kind of messed us up at that event. It was cloudy.
It did.
And then it bluebirded off and slick calm on Saturday, which really made the fishing tough.
It did. But, Steve, all across South Texas and Louisiana, the past 2 or 3 weeks, it has been ridiculous what weights it has taken to win some of these events.
Yes.
This past weekend, going back to Sam Rayburn, the ABA was this past weekend. It took 29 pounds to win that event this past weekend. And I know you fished it.
Yes.
Not only the Bass Champs down at Falcon this past weekend, 26 pounds.
Yeah.
If you want to do well in South Texas, Louisiana, and I know Oklahoma, you guys, it's still a little cold up there. Y'all are not, y'all are not prime weather we're prime down here. These spawners are big and healthy, and they're ready to move up, and they're in groups, they're in wads.
Yep.
You can get right, and you can get right quick.
Yep. Even in the Outdoor Outlaws Sweet 16, it took 29.76 to win it.
That was last weekend.
Yeah, the top 7 stringers were all over 20 pounds.
Yeah.
So
this time of year, no matter where you're fishing at from Oklahoma south, you better catch them.
Exactly.
You better catch them.
All right, next topic we want to talk about, and this is more up your alley, Kevin, because you're a general manager for a bait and tackle company, and one of the things that has become real popular, and if you're a fisherman out there, I don't care if you're fishing from Florida to Texas to wherever, these tournaments are popping up everywhere. Bait-specific companies having their own tournament where you throw only their bait, the Berkeley, the V&M, the Rattle Trap. I mean, you can just name them one after another. They all got their own, and you got to throw their product. Strike King has their own tournament. So give us your thoughts on that. What is the thought process as a general manager? What are you trying to accomplish with having those kind of events?
Well, of course, you're getting your baits in the fisherman's hands.
Right.
More product. We have, our pacemaker jigs from our J-Bug, our best sellers, people fish with.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of things that we make that maybe is not as popular amongst the fishermen that, we got to get these in their hands.
Yeah.
And Two Baits has done extremely well for us by doing the V&M tournament, our Wild Thing worm.
Yeah.
The last 2 years, we've had our V&M tournament on Sam Rayburn in the fall, and it took 24 pounds to win one year. It took 25 pounds to win the next year. And in the last 2 years, our Wild Thing worm sales have skyrocketed from this tournament.
Right.
So it's a big worm that not many people really knew about, that really didn't have a lot of push going into it. But, man, once the fish were biting a big worm during the fall, that time of year, they tried out our Wild Thing, and it has just skyrocketed.
And your J-Bug took off, a couple of years ago? The J-Bug got hot.
Correct.
At a couple of those events
But, from a company's point of view, we don't really make a lot of money. We don't make any money off that tournament by the time we pay Outlaw Outdoors to put it on, and we're not really.
This is about exposure.
It's about exposure. It's not a lot of times when you fish tournaments like these, it's not a big entry fee. Yeah. Some of them don't have an entry fee at all.
Right.
Ours is a small $100 entry fee. I know Rattle Traps is a small entry fee. There's a couple that do a non-entry fee. Gambler does a non-entry fee tournament. Missile, which has their tournament coming up at Lake Gunnersville, is a non-entry fee tournament.
Yeah.
So, for companies, it's not about making any money off the tournament. It's just getting the exposure.
And that's a better idea to have your own tournament probably, because some tournaments you have a grab bag and there may be 5 different baits in a bag, 3 of each one in each little V&M package or a Strike King package or whatever the companies are in that grab bag. Is it more effective to do that at just any regular event, or better to have your own tournament?
It's better to have your own tournament.
Yeah.
I mean, if you can get 100 to 200 boats that's only can throw your baits that day.
Right.
Now, don't get me wrong. There's some downside to it as well.
Yeah.
As far as people, I'm catching them on a crankbait. Y'all don't have a crankbait.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we're putting the tournament on. We're putting all this money out there to do this.
Right.
It is what it is. Now, but that is one thing. I have fished a lot of the bait specific tournaments.
Yeah.
And I really enjoy that part of it. I don't have 100 things going through my head that day. The rattle trap tournament, we've both fished that before.
Right.
They have the rattle trap tournament all over they got it at Gunnersville. They've got it at Rayburn, of course, and other places. There's no ifs, ands, or buts what I'm doing that day. I've got about 2 or 3 rods on the deck with a rattle trap on, and I'm going down the bank and I'm fishing.
Yeah, exactly.
And I enjoy that part of it.
I know when I fished your tournament over at Lake Fork, I threw the J-Bug and the baby swamp hog. Didn't have to worry about nothing else. I had I didn't even need all the other tackle in my boat. And I was like, this is kind of cool because it took the thought of guessing game out of my head as to what I need to be throwing.
Right.
And I really enjoyed it.
It has its pros and cons on both sides. If you're a fisherman fishing the event,
right,
maybe you're on a different kind of bite, and if you're on a deep bite, somebody's not making like a rattle trap. They don't really make anything for a deep bite. Now, some guys come up with some weird stuff they come up with. I know I got one year that come up with a drop shot rattle trap because he was on some deep fish, So people come up with some weird stuff, but it's fun. They're fun to fish, and most all tackle companies are doing them now.
Well, another thing, too, it makes you focus more on your technique.
Absolutely.
Presentation.
Because everybody's doing the same thing.
Exactly. Yeah. So what can I do a little different with that worm that somebody else didn't maybe doing?
Right.
So I think they're great events, and hopefully they'll continue. So let's see here, Kev. What else we got to talk about here today?
Well, we just go back to the pro circuits. We got a lot of that coming up. So make sure you tune in to the FLW, the BASS, the MLF.
Follow these guys.
Make sure they'll have a lot of stuff coming up live FLW this week from Sam Rayburn. You definitely want to check that out. I'm telling you guys, it's going to be some excellent coverage.
Yes. And we will return more next week. Again, Monday will be live on YouTube and on Facebook Live right here, 12 o'clock noon, each and every Monday. So tune us in for more Tackle Talk Live right here